In the top stories, Deputy Commissioner of Police shares crime statistics. Cuba and the United States have held diplomatic talks on the island for the first time in 2016. And France and Lebanon are holding talks in Paris today as the regional ceasefire nears its expiry date. Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Midday Major Newscast. Today is Tuesday, 21st April 2026, and I am Jasmine Thomas. First on the national scene, Deputy Commissioner of Police Cromwell Henry says there has been a 14% drop in crime from last year up to week 16 of 2026. He says, however, some areas have shown increase, such as non-fatal shootings.
But just to give you an idea of how we are doing, up to week 16, that's last weekend, April 18th, we've enjoyed a reduction of 14% overall in major crimes. Most of the crime categories are down compared to last year, except non-fatal shootings. Those are up 100%, but 100%, that is only a difference of one crime. So while we had two non-fatal shootings up to the same period last year, we've had one up to the same period last year compared to two. So it's a 100% increase, but the numbers is small. All the other categories are down. Woundings down 19%, robberies down 40%, break-ins down 20%, drug possession down 32%, firearm possession down 50%, malicious damage down 35%, and other crimes, those are the financial crimes, the fraud, those are down 30%. Crimes against tourists down 100%. So the only categories that are up, as I mentioned, the shootings, non-fatal shootings, sexual assaults, and last needs. Last needs are up 6%, sexual assaults are up 50%. That's a difference of 5 between last year and this year. So generally, we are not doing too bad. We continue to see reductions in most of the categories of crimes.
And in related news, Commissioner of Police James Sutton is assuring the public that everything possible is being done to address the recent surge in gun-related homicides across the Federation. Speaking at a press conference on Tuesday, Commissioner Sutton outlined measures already in place to restore public safety.
Over the past several days, we have seen a few serious and tragic incidents involving the use of firearms. Lives have been lost, families are grieving, and communities are understandably concerned. Earlier this morning, I met with the Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Terence Jew, other members of the Police High Command, Commander Major Coyote Sutton and his High Command, and the National Security Advisor, Dr. Lionel Wallins, to assess the situation and to finalize a coordinated operational plan to address and arrest the recent increase in violent crimes. This engagement will not be a one-off occasion. We have established a structured daily review process to monitor developments, assess intelligence, and ensure that our response remains targeted, adaptive, and effective until stability is maintained.
Sutton says investigations into the recent murders are actively continuing.
The Royal St. Christopher and Nevis Police Force is actively investigating each of these incidents, and significant resources have already been deployed to identify and apprehend those responsible. We are not operating in isolation. as is customary, we are working in close coordination with the St. Kitts and Nevis Defense Force and our regional and international partners to ensure a focused and intelligent-led response.
Their measures include increased police presence in targeted areas, targeted operations, and continued enforcement action aimed at removing illegal firearms from the streets. The Police High Command will meet daily to provide updates to National Security Minister and Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew. The Commissioner emphasized that tackling crime requires the cooperation of the public and urged community members to work alongside law enforcement.
I want to emphasize that public safety is strongest when law enforcement and the community work together. If you see something, say something.
And the National Secretariat for Human Security and Well-being is stepping up its community outreach across the Federation with recent engagements targeting youth and national influencers. On April 16, Secretariat Coordinator Eartha Carey traveled to Nevis where she met with a group of boys and young men between the ages of 10 and 20. The session, held at the invitation of Pastor Ron Daniel, focused on conflict resolution and available support services. In a separate engagement on the 11th of April at government headquarters, the Secretariat met with leading local entertainers, musicians, and cultural ambassadors to explore how public figures can support positive messaging around safety and responsibility. The Secretariat says both islands are fully involved in the initiative, with the next engagement scheduled for the 25th of April when the team returns to Nevis to meet with additional community groups. And on the regional scene, Cuba has confirmed that it recently met with U.S. officials on the island in a new diplomatic push as tensions remain high over Washington's energy blockade of the Caribbean nation. American diplomats flew to Cuba earlier this month for the first time since 2016. Cuba confirmed the U.S. delegation included Assistant Secretaries of State, while Cuba was represented at Deputy Foreign Minister level. Officials say the talks were conducted respectfully and that the U.S. delegation issued no threats or deadlines. Cuba says lifting the energy embargo was Cuba's top priority in the discussions, describing it as an unjustified punishment of the Cuban people. Washington is pressing Havana to end the political repression, release political prisoners, and liberalize its economy in exchange for any easing of sanctions. President Trump has also threatened tariffs on any country supplying oil to Cuba and has not ruled out direct intervention. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel said last week that Cuba is prepared to fight if it should happen. And 3 people have been arrested in St. Thomas in connection with an alleged prostitution and human smuggling operation linked to a local nightclub. U.S. federal authorities say the suspects are accused of running a brothel out of Tootsie's Gentlemen's Club while also harboring illegal immigrants for financial gain. Those charged are 56-year-old Hussein Jamil, also known as Tony, 39-year-old Magda Castro Santos, and 65-year-old Julio Hilgado de Pena. Investigators allege that the group recruited women through social media, including U.S. citizens and non-citizens, and brought them to the St. Thomas to work as dancers and sex workers. All 3 defendants face multiple conspiracy charges, including transporting persons for prostitution and harboring non-citizens for profit. If convicted, they could face up to 10 years in prison on the most serious charge. The FBI and Homeland Security investigations are leading the case. And now for a look at news on the international scene. French President Emmanuel Macron is meeting Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam in Paris today, with France's commitment to the ceasefire in Lebanon and the country's territorial integrity top of the agenda. The two leaders will also discuss humanitarian support for displaced populations and the economic reforms needed to support Lebanon's reconstruction and recovery. The meeting comes after a French peacekeeper was killed and 3 others wounded when UN peacekeeping forces in southern Lebanon came under small arms fire on Saturday. Both Macron and UNIFIL force have blamed Hezbollah, though the group has denied involvement. Macron is calling on Lebanese authorities to identify and prosecute those responsible without delay. Paris talks take place as the ceasefire approaches its Wednesday expiry. Pakistan is preparing for a new round of negotiations between the U.S. and Iran, while Lebanon and Israel are due to hold fresh talks in Washington later this week. And a former head of Britain's Foreign Office has told lawmakers that he felt political pressure from Prime Minister Keir Starmer's office to rush through the appointment of Peter Mandelson as ambassador to Washington despite security concerns. Ollie Robbins, who was dismissed by Starmer last week, said the Prime Minister's office had a dismissive attitude toward the security vetting process. He told lawmakers the government's vetting agency considered Mandelson a borderline case and was leaning toward recommending against granting him security clearance. Robbins decided to approve the appointment regardless. Robbins said the security concerns did not relate to Mandelson's association with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, but declined to specify what triggered the flags. A separate background report prepared ahead of the appointment did identify potential business links to Russia and China as a concern. Mandelson previously resigned twice from senior posts in Labour governments over separate scandals involving money and ethics. The testimony adds further pressure on Starmer, who is already facing calls to resign over the appointment. We now take a look at the weather. Partly sunny conditions are expected across the islands today, with a slight chance of a brief shower. Temperatures will reach a high of 32 degrees Celsius or 90 degrees Fahrenheit, with an overnight low of 23 degrees Celsius or 73 degrees Fahrenheit. Overall conditions remain fair to partly cloudy. However, shallow cloud patches moving through the area could trigger occasional showers over the next 24 hours. Tonight will be fair to partly cloudy with a moderate chance of a brief overnight shower. Winds will be from the east-northeast at 11 to 26 kilometers per hour or 7 to 16 miles per hour, with lighter periods at times. Seas will range between 1 and 1.5 meters or 3 to 5 feet. Sunset this evening is at 6:28, with sunrise tomorrow at around 5:50. That brings us to the end of the Midday Major Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more. Thank you for tuning in. I am Jasmine Thomas. God bless you.